I hope you've had the most amazing weekend, filled full of fun and films and whatever you do that you enjoy the most. So, we are going to be reading 2 chapters tonight, and I'm so excited because it's very, very dramatic, and you can see that action building to the climax. Something really big is going to happen now. I wonder if you can guess what it is before we start reading. So we'll find out, we'll see that unfold as we read through the chapters. Just wanted to say thank you very much again for all your likes and all your shares, and we're sharing it, people are seeing it, and the YouTube channel's now taken off and people are watching it online and from different places, and it's great, and I'm getting such lovely messages. Please keep on sharing, and let's hope that we can share it to a few more people, or a lot more people I should say, in the next weeks until we get to the end of this story. Now, you can read along with us on the PDF that's above in the box. You can read your own copy of the book, or you can follow along with the screen behind me. If you're all sitting comfortably, let's get straight into it. Chapter 11, The Ancient Ones. The Grand High Witch stood on the very centre of the platform, and those dangerous eyes of hers travelled slowly around the audience of witches who were sitting so meekly before her. "All those over 70, put up your hands!" she barked suddenly. 7 or 8 hands went up in the air. "It comes to me," said the Grand High Witch, "that your ancient ones will not be able to climb high trees in search of gruntle eggs." "We won't, your grandness. We are afraid we won't," chanted the ancient ones. "Nor will you be able to catch the crab cruncher, who lives high up on the rocky cliffs," the Grand High Witch went on. "I can't exactly see you sprinting after the speedy cat springer either, or diving into the deep waters to spear a blubber snitch, or striding the bleak moors with a gun under your arm to shoot the grubble squirt. You're too old and feeble for those things." "We are," chanted the ancient ones. We are. "Your ancient ones have served me well over many years," said the Grand High Witch, "and I do not wish to deny you the pleasure of bumping off a few thousand children each just because you have become old and feeble. I have therefore prepared personally, with my own hands, a limited quantity of delayed action mouse maker, which I will distribute to the ancient ones before you leave the hotel." "Oh, thank you, cried the old witches. "You're far too good to us, your grandness. You're so kind and thoughtful." "Here is a sample of what I am giving you," shouted the Grand High Witch. She fished around in a pocket of her dress and brought out a very small bottle. She held it up and shouted, "In this tiny bottle is 500 doses of mouse maker. Is it enough to turn 500 children into mice?" I could see that the bottle was made of dark blue glass, and that it was very small, about the same size as the ones you can buy at the chemist, with nose drops in them. "Each of you ancient ones will get 2 of these bottles," she shouted. Thank you, oh most generous and thoughtful one," chorused the ancient witches. "Not 1 drop will be wasted. Each one of us will promise to squish and squallop and squiggle 1,000 children." "Our meeting is over," announced the Grand High Witch. "Here is the timetable for the remainder of your stay in the hotel. Right now, we must all go out onto the Sunshine Terrace and have tea with that ridiculous manager. Next, at 6 o'clock tonight, those witches who are too old to climb trees after gruntled eggs will report to my room to receive 2 bottles each of mouse maker. My room number is 454. Do not forget it. Then, at 8 o'clock, all of you will assemble in the dining room for supper. We are the lovely ladies of the RSPCC, and they are setting up 2 long tables specially for us. But do not forget to put the cotton plugs in up your nose. That dining room will be full of filthy little children, and without the nose plugs, the stink will be unbearable. Apart from that, remember to behave normally at all times. Is everything clear? Any questions? I have one question, Your Grandness, said a voice in the audience. What happens if one of the chocolates we are giving away in our shops gets eaten by a grown-up? That's too bad for the grown-up, said the Grand High Witch. The meeting is over, she shouted. Out you go! The witches stood up and began gathering their things together. I was watching them through the crack and hoping to heaven they would hurry up and leave so that I might be safe at last. Wait! Shrieked one of the witches in the back row. Hold everything! Her shrieking voice echoed through the ballroom like a trumpet. All the witches suddenly stopped and turned and looked towards the speaker. She was one of the taller witches, and I could see her standing there with her head tilted back and her nose in the air, and she was sucking in great long breaths of air through those curvy pink seashelly nostrils of hers. Wait! She shouted again. What is it? The others cried out. Dog's droppings, she yelled. Just then, I got a whiff of dog's droppings. Oh, surely not, the others shouted. There couldn't be. Yes, yes, shouted the first witch. There it is again. It's so not strong, but it's there. I mean, it's here. Oh, it's definitely somewhere not too far away. What's going on down there? Shouted the Grand High Witch, glaring down from the platform. Mildred's just got a whiff of dog's droppings, Your Grandness, someone called back to her. What rubbish is this? Shouted the Grand High Witch. She has dog's droppings of the brain. There are not children in this room. Hang on, cried the witch called Mildred. Hang on, everybody, don't move. I'm getting it again. Her huge curvy nose holes were waving in and out like a pair of fishtails. It's getting stronger. It's hitting me harder now. Can't the rest of you smell it? All the noses of all the witches in the room went up in the air, and all the nostrils began to suck and sniff. She's right, cried another voice. She's absolutely right. Dog's droppings, it is strong and foul. In a matter of seconds, the entire assembly of witches had taken up the dreaded cry of dog's droppings. Dog's droppings! They shouted. The room is full of it. Poo! Poo! Why did we not smell it before? It sinks like a sewer. Some little swine must be hiding not so very far away from here. Find it! Screamed the Grand High Witch. Track it down! Rootle it out! Follow your noses till you get it! The hairs on my head were standing up like the bristles of a nail brush, and a cold sweat was breaking out all over me. Rootle it out! The small lump of dung! Screeched the Grand High Witch. Don't let it escape! If it isn't here, it has observed the most secret things! It must be exterminated immediately! I'm so excited to read this next part. Chapter 12. Metamorphosis. I remember thinking to myself, there is no escape for me now. Even if I make a run for it, I managed to dodge the lot of them. I still won't get out because the doors are chained and locked. I'm finished. I'm done for. Oh, Grandmama, what are they going to do to me? I looked round and I saw a hideous painted and powdered witch's face staring down at me. And the face opened its mouth and yelled triumphantly, "It's here! It's behind the screen! Come and get it!" The witch reached out a gloved hand and grabbed me by the hair, but I twisted free and jumped away. I ran. Oh, how I ran. The sheer terror of it all put wings on my feet. I flew around the outside of the great ballroom, and not one of them had chance of catching me. As I came level with the doors, I paused and tried to open them but the big chain was on them and they didn't even rattle. The witches were not bothering to chase me. They simply stood there in small groups, watching me and knowing for certain that there was no way I could escape. Several of them were holding their noses with gloved fingers, and there were cries of, "Pooh, what a stink! We can't stand this much longer!" "Catch it then, you idiots!" screamed the Grand High Witch from up on the platform. "Spread out in a line across the room and close in on it and grab it! Corner this filthy little gumboil and seize it and bring it up here to me!" The witches spread out as they were told. They advanced towards me, some from one end, some from the other, and some came down the middle between the rows of empty chairs. They were bound to get me now. They had me cornered. From sheer and absolute terror, I began to scream. "Help!" I screamed, turning my head towards the doors in the hope that somebody outside might hear me. "Help! Help! Help!" "Get it!" shouted the Grand High Witch. "Grab hold of it! Stop yelling! Stop it yelling!" They rushed at me. Then, and about 5 of them grabbed me by the arms and legs and lifted me clear off the ground. I went on screaming, but one of them clapped a gloved hand over my mouth, and that stopped me. "Bring it here!" shouted the Grand High Witch. "Bring the spy little vermin up here to me!" I was carried onto the platform with my arms and legs held tight by many hands, and I lay there suspended in the air, facing the ceiling. I saw the Grand High Witch standing over me, grinning at me in the most horrible way. She held up the small blue bottle of mousemaker and said, "Now for a little medicine. Hold his nose and make him open his mouth." Strong fingers pinched my nose. I kept my mouth closed tight and held my breath, but I couldn't do it for long. My chest was bursting. I opened my mouth to get one big quick breath of air, and as I did so, the Grand High Witch poured the entire contents of the little bottle down my throat. Oh, the pain and the fire. It felt as though a kettle full of boiling water had been poured into my mouth and my throat was going up in flames. Then very quickly, the frightful burning, searing, scorching feeling started spreading down into my chest and into my tummy, and on into my arms and legs and all over my body. I screamed and screamed, but once again the gloved hand was clapped over my lips. The next thing I felt was my skin beginning to tighten. How else can I describe it? It was quite literally a tightening and a shrinking of the skin all over my body, from top of my head to the tips of my fingers to the ends of my toes. I felt as though I was a balloon and somebody was twisting the top of the balloon and twisting and twisting, and the balloon was getting smaller and smaller and the skin was getting tighter and tighter, and soon it was going to burst. Then the squeezing began. This time I was inside a suit of iron and somebody was turning the screw. And with each turn of the screw, the iron suit became smaller and smaller so that I was squeezed like an orange into a pulpy mess with the juice running out of my sides. After that, there came a fierce prickling sensation all over my skin, or what was left of my skin, as though tiny needles were forcing their way out through the surface of the skin and from the inside. And this, I realise now, was the growing of the mouse fur. Far away in the distance, I heard the voice of the Grand High Witch yelling, 500 doses! This stinking little carbuncle has had 500 doses of the alarm clock has been smashed, and now we are having instantaneous action. I heard clapping and cheering, and I remember thinking, I am not myself any longer. I have gone clear out of my own skin. I noticed that the floor was only an inch from my nose. I noticed also a pair of little furry front paws resting on the floor. I was able to move those paws. They were mine. At that moment, I realised that I was not a little boy any longer. I was a mouse. Now for the mouse trap, I heard the Grand High Witch. I've got it right here, and here's a piece of cheese. But I wasn't going to wait for that. I was off across that platform like a streak of lightning. I was astonished at my own speed. I leapt over witches' feet, right and left, and in no time at all I was down the steps and onto the floor of the ballroom itself, and the skittering of the floor of the ballroom itself, and the skittering off among the rows of chairs. What I especially liked was the fact that I made no sound at all as I ran. I was a swift and silent mover, and quite amazingly, the pain had all gone now. I was feeling quite remarkably well. It is not a bad thing after all, I thought to myself, to be tiny, as well as speedy, when there is a bunch of dangerous females after your blood. I selected the back leg of a chair and squeezed up against it and kept very still. In the distance, the Grand High Witch was shouting, "Leave the little stinkpot alone! It is not worth bothering about. It is only a mouse now. Somebody else will soon catch it. Let us get out of here. The meeting is over. Unlock the doors and shove off to the Sunshine Terrace to have tea with that idiotic manager." Oh my goodness. So, there's the 2 chapters, and they were quite frightening. The boy is now turned into a mouse. I wonder if he's going to get his revenge on these witches. I can't believe how scary that potion is, and how quickly it happened and the amount of dosage he was given. Let's find out what happens next tomorrow night. I'm so excited to find out. Take care.